I'm gonna give Big Vic an 8. I felt like with Big Vic, he actually was showing a few signs of nerves in the first half, flapping at a few things, and it was like kind of worrying me a little bit. But look, it's all going to come down to that save in the last 5 minutes. It was a brilliant save, match-winning save. If he doesn't make that, it goes to extra time, and who knows what happens. But I did feel like there were a lot of nerves in there from Vic.
Yeah, I think obviously he also dropped one for the Van de Ven, the one that cut off the line. That was, watching that back, that was a pretty terrible fumble as well. So he definitely got away with that. I'll give him an 8 though, because I will forgive him for that. I also thought he went long when he needed to, didn't play short and screw around with it, especially when the timing was necessary. And obviously 2 big saves, one from Garnacho, one-handed, tipped it over the bar. And obviously the one from Luke Shaw was absolutely massive. And I thought there were some times as well, relieved the pressure in that second half when he was coming in, claiming things. So I think overall, probably a shout for man of the match. I don't think he quite gets it, but I think a really good performance.
Next up is Pedro Porro. I'm gonna give him a 9. I think Porro was brilliant, man. His defensive display locked down that right hand side. He really did. I thought he was brilliant. And his crossing and from set pieces was causing problems in the opposition box. And I just felt like he had that mentality about him, like to say, like, look, by hook or by crook, we're winning this. It doesn't matter what happens, we're winning this game. And you could see him, he was always trying to G up the fans like he always does. But I felt like he had that much more serious look on his face than when he usually comes up and he goes like that. But every time he came over, he was just like gave the look to the fans, but didn't want to like go over this board. But I thought he was brilliant.
Yeah, I think I'll give him a 9. I think he did have some really good crosses. There was one actually in the first half, right? It was going to be right on Richarlison's head, but I think Mazraoui just gets a little flick just before Richarlison headed it home. But obviously his delivery was brilliant. But I thought, as you said, defensively, near perfect. The only time he struggled was there was a little period where Johnson was waning and Garnacho came on and he was starting to struggle a bit. But as soon as Sarr moved over, they had that side on lockdown again. And I thought he dealt with everything that came his way. There was about one moment where he thought maybe he was going to give away a penalty, but luckily, I don't know, I haven't seen it back.
I haven't seen that back, but
no
I
one's
shut
making a
myself
fuss
on
of
that
it. No one's making a fuss of it. I'm assuming he went
it
down
looked like a Stonewall penalty from where I was.
Yeah, I'm assuming he probably went down easy or something. But I thought, by and large, apart from that, blocking crosses, making tackles, doing everything right, celebrating every clearance like it was as he pumping it to the crowd. So yeah, brilliant form from Pedro, and all carries on his late season brilliant form.
That penalty moment as well. It was so crazy because it happens, and I see the ref point. So I think he's pointing to the spot, but he's pointing to a goal kick. And as he's pointing, I put my head in my hands like that, and I'm just like that for ages. And I just think it's a penalty. And I look up, and Vicario is about to take the goal kick. I was like, "What the hell's just happened?" I genuinely thought it was a penalty. I was going mad. Anyway, let's move in to Cuti Romero. I'm going to give him a big fat 10. I thought captain's performance on the day was absolutely phenomenal. Was getting himself, I felt like he towed the line really well with being aggressive and being over aggressive that we've seen him be maybe a couple of times on a number of occasions. But I think he was just so he just did everything that we wanted him to do on the day.
Yeah, it was
deep when he sat deep when he could, and the way he was just diving into those challenges, booting the ball away. He was the guy that won us that game, in my opinion.
Absolutely, it was a leader's performance. Was he captain on the day? Obviously, because someone was on the bench. He led the team out. He was absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. We know he turns up in finals. We know he's a big game defender. He really is. He turns up for these occasions. He's really been phenomenal in this whole Europa League run. I thought in the final was one of the best of the lot. He was absolutely sensational. I can't remember a single thing Højlund was able to do. His headers away were brilliant when we were under pressure. There was some good playing out the back as well when given the opportunity. He was one of the only ones who had a bit of composure on the ball. The other players seemed to completely lose it. But I thought he led that back line impeccably, made sure nothing was getting past, and it was a proper Roy of the Rovers kind of performance. And he had a bit of a spat with Maguire as well, wound him up, which was also great to see.
Not the
So
first time.
yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, it wasn't the first time because back then, in a few years ago, do you remember when Maguire was on the floor? He was shouting in his face. But let's go to Mickey van der Ven. I'm going to give him a 9. Top performance from him. Obviously, the key talking point there is the one from the Hoyland one that just looked like it was going into the back of the net. Where's that? Anyway, it looked like it was going to the back of the net. Acrobatic clearance off the line. But apart from that, calm, composed in possession. Yeah, it's just him. That partnership he has with Romero in big moments like that, it just kind of sets us apart.
Yeah, for sure. Another great, I thought, a really good performance from Mickey. That clearance is going to be an iconic moment. I think we're going to look back at that clearance like we look back at Ledley King against Robben and all these kind of iconic Tottenham kind of moments down the years. I think that clearance is, in fact, when you probably think about it, that clearance was probably the iconic moment of the final, not even more than the goal. I think because it was just it was as good as a goal, really. That clearance, let's be honest, and it really saved our skin. Didn't need too many of the iconic Van der Ven runs in behind because we were just so deep. He didn't need to do it.
There was no space,
yeah, it wasn't any space. But I thought he dealt with everything perfectly. One thing I think was probably missing was maybe a Van der Ven marauding up the pitch and making one of those runs, but wasn't one of those days. Didn't need to do it.
Yeah. Udogie up next. I'm going to give Udogie an 8. I felt like he was struggling a bit in the early stages of the first half against Amad Diallo. I thought Diallo was getting the better of him on a few occasions. And, I was thinking what's going on here. But I thought after those kind of initial moments, he did grow into the game. He was fairly solid from that point on until the end. And on top of that, I felt like when we did get our moments to go forward, he was the one really charging up the pitch and really linking up well with Solanke and maybe could have linked up a bit better on a number of occasions. But he was the one trying to drive that team forward.
Yeah, and for sure, he was the only one who kind of had the legs to get forward, and he was doing a really good job. But yeah, for sure, in that first half, Diallo cooked him a couple of times where there was one time the ball was coming into Diallo and Udogie went right into him to like kind of just body him, and Diallo just shook him off and turned him. And I couldn't believe. I was like, wow, couldn't believe it. But to be fair, I think he kind of learned from those couple situations. And after that, especially second half, Diallo had very little. Didn't really get much joy out of him. Obviously, he went down with cramp a bit late on. Spence came on, had to just finish the game. But I thought another really strong performance from Udogie. I'll give him an 8 as well. And yeah, again, another player continuing some really, really brilliant late season form.
Rodrigo Bentancur up next. I'm going to give him an 8 as well. Actually, I'll give him a 9. Actually, Bentancur, because I thought he sat in the middle of the park. I'll say calm and composed, but he was very aggressive as well. But he just kept it simple, kept the ball ticking over. One really nice run just before we scored as well in the first half. And it wasn't just like his performance on his own, but it's the way he worked alongside Bissouma and Sarr, which made us such a hard proposition to break down. And I thought Bentancur was central to that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm going to give him an 8. I think Bissouma was a bit better than him. We'll get into Bissouma in a bit, but I thought excellent. I thought Bruno was kept really quiet. That he made a really important role in the goal, as you say. Really good run in between kind of the defenders to kind of draw out space. And I thought he had a really just good disciplined role to play. Wasn't kind of too adventurous or anything like that, but I think he did what he needed to do to a really great level. Competed well, made sure we were kind of winning that physical battle in the middle, and that was really crucial.
Yeah. Bissouma up next. I'm also going to give Bissouma a 9. I thought, he's just had this kind of like extra, I don't know what it is, tenacity, motivation. There's just something different about him in this Europa League, well, since the semi-final till now. And this game was no different. He just had something about him, mopping up everything in front of him. And also, he had the presence of mind with those nice little touches to drive us forward a little bit in those little spaces that he found in the middle of the park. So Bissouma, are we talking about a remontada or what?
I don't know, but he's had such a brilliant kind of last few games, and it'd be sad if that's kind of how it ends. But I mean, then again, what can we expect? It probably is going to be how it ends. But I think fair play to him to kind of go out, if he does go out in the way that he does, showing what we all know that he has. I think he said it himself. It was very interesting to hear him say it. I don't think it was yesterday. I think it was before the final. He said, "I understand the criticism is because the fans know how good of a player I am, and they just don't see it enough. And I understand the criticism, and it's unfortunate." It's all something to that effect. So he's kind of aware of it, that, you know, he's maybe not showing his best on a consistent performance, but when he's in that kind of mood, you know, he's a great player. And we know what he's capable of. We've seen it at Brighton, but not just at Brighton, we've seen it here as well. And when he's playing to that level, he's one of the best in the league when he's at his best. But
it's always consistency with him.
That's the thing. We just don't see it. But look, I thought he was brilliant yesterday. Yeah, I'm going to give him a 9. I thought he was fantastic. I thought he brought good energy when we needed it. There was a couple of times in the first or second half where he won a couple of free kicks, just kind of relieved the pressure a bit, brought that energy, and I thought it was so much more disciplined. And I think that's the main thing we've seen from Bissouma lately, just that bit more discipline. And him and Bentancur really just given us this little platform of like resilience together in their partnership, which is we haven't really seen it of them together before. I don't know why, but they've maybe it's because, you know, they're two experienced players and they've kind of just got together and said, look, we can do this. We can play together. There's no reason why not. And they've actually developed quite a decent partnership for the job that's been required, I would say. I think in other games where different things required, you probably don't want them together. But in these kind of games where, you know, what's required is be disciplined, making sure you're stopping the opposition, I mean, they've done well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see Ange maybe deploy these kind of two midfielders together in a Premier League game, and to make us, you know, get the opposition second guessing a little bit of how we're going to play in the Premier League, because everyone knows like how we're setting up in the Premier League. Every manager has said it, but in Europe it's been completely different. So I'd like to see us take a bit of those tactic and his kind of tactical flexibility into the Premier League, and I think he'll win a lot of fans on side with that, and I think Bissouma could be vital to that. Next up is Pape Matar Sarr. I thought he was brilliant in the game. I'm going to give him a 9 as well. Obviously, it was his great work that led to the goal that we did score. Nicked the ball off Bruno Fernandes, crossed the ball in. Whether it was Brennan or Shaw, whoever put it in the back of the net, it was his cross that got it there. But on top of that, he was just everywhere. Didn't let any Manchester United midfielder have a moment's rest on the ball. Literally, he was on them like a flash every single time, working his absolute socks off for the team. Went over to right wing as well, and it was a bit of a tactical masterclass from Ange from that perspective. And yeah, I thought Pape had his best game in a long, long time for Spurs.
Yeah, I thought, as you say, versatile. I'm going to give him a 9. I thought his energy was fantastic. I think obviously his role in the first goal was brilliant. He literally wins the ball in the middle of the park, carries on his run, picks it up on the left-hand side, whips in a wicked ball into Brendan, causes chaos, and it gets the goal. And I thought, you know, that was a massive moment. And him moving to the right-hand side when you know, we're starting to struggle with Garnacho and they're starting to get a bit of kind of joy down that side, and he kind of shut that down. On that occasion, I thought he was tactically flexible. I thought he had the energy and the legs in the middle as well, making sure that Bruno just wasn't getting any joy. Casemiro wasn't getting as much influence as he'd like. Phenomenal in the final for such a young player. You know, you can see how professional and disciplined he can be, and phenomenal for him.
Brennan Johnson up next. I'm going to give Brennan an 8. Obviously, he's the one that scores the goal. We go on to win 1-0. So massive, massive impact from that perspective. I think in the early stages of the game, he was giving Shaw a bit of a hard time with a few little runs down that side. And I think where he really earned his money, though, is the second half and the defensive display he put in. Like, by the time he went off, the guy was absolutely dead. He couldn't give any more. That's how much he gave to the team. And that's exactly what I've been so impressed with Brennan over the last couple of ties in the Europa League. It's this defensive displays, because we've always criticized him that he doesn't do enough defensively. But since this Europa League, since the quarterfinals, I think, against Frankfurt, I've really started to notice it, and he's kind of added that to his game now. And that's what we really need in these kind of games.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think yesterday, again, you're so right. I think he was so disciplined. I think Mason Mount, we was pretty anonymous, wasn't he? Mason Mount on that side couldn't really get away from them. When Garnacho came on, it was a bit different, and then obviously we moved Sarr over. But I thought before that, Brennan had that side on lock with Porro, weren't getting any joy that side. And I think Luke Shaw looked a bit off there. And I think Johnson was taking advantage of it a bit. It looked a bit sharper than him, beat him for pace a couple of times, forced corners, forced a throw. And then as well, right at the beginning of the game, he literally burst into the box after nicking, I think, off Luke Shaw and nearly created no opportunity. But he gets the winner and he keeps making those runs and he keeps getting in those positions and he keeps getting on the end of things and he keeps, most importantly, scoring goals. And, people can criticize him for only scoring tap-ins or only doing this or only doing that. But you know what? A goal's a goal. Doesn't matter if you hit it from 30 yards or hit it in from just over the goal line. A goal is a goal. And Brennan's literally won us the Europa League. That's how crucial that role is. It literally won us the whole competition. So big up to Brennan. Unbelievable day for you. And from being kicked from deleting your social media at the beginning of the season to now being a final goal scorer in the Europa League.
Winner.
Unbelievable. Winner.
Let's go to Dominic Solanke next. I'm going to give him a 7. I think he worked tirelessly hard up against Maguire. What he was doing really well was battling aerially with Maguire and winning those second balls and those headers. I did feel like he could have used a bit more quality in the final third when, there was a couple of moments with him and Udogie on the break and stuff. So it was a bit frustrating from those perspectives. But I still think he gave some invaluable work to the team.
Yeah, I think I'll probably give him a 7, but I don't think he had a bad game. I think it was tough for him, up against a lot of the time, 3 centre-backs really, and he had to do all the kind of dog work by himself. So that second half, it was kind of like a fool's errand. Even to be fair though, even that second half, he was pretty much doing everything by himself, but he was still able to get a bit of joy. That one moment he spun Maguire down the line, nearly creating a chance for Son. Although I have to say, the moment where Udogie plays him in, I think his touch lets him down and he should be doing a lot better there. But look, he did a great job for the team. Tireless work, as we know. I think set pieces as well, was doing some really good stuff. Although I think it was him that kind of clashed with Vicario for the mistake, wasn't it? I think Vicario kind of spilled it into him and then that caused a mistake. So he didn't cover himself much glory there. But I think he did a really important role for the job. And look, we know sign of 64 million. Maybe we could have a player who scores more goals, but that's what hard work gets you. Performances like that, and now we have a trophy.
Keep saying that, and I'll just bring a smile every time to my face. Last of the starting 11 is Richarlison. I'm gonna give him an 8. Just for his tireless work. I think he caused problems as well in the first half. I think he had a deflected shot that went wide. But the sheer work rate this guy was putting in, again, another player, like he gets booked in the second half, and then by the time they take him off not long after the booking, but he was just dead out on his feet. Like the guy couldn't move anymore. And that just goes to show, again, a bit similar to Brennan Johnson, just how much work this guy was putting in, hassling, harrying all the time. And yeah, it was a surprise inclusion, wasn't it? Because we all thought Sonny was going to start on the left-hand side, captain, and he starts with Richarlison. And I think he was vindicated for that decision.
Yeah, I don't think he was surprised that he started. Maybe the fact he started on the left, but because at the end of the day, he has been rested for the last 2 games, so that should have been an indication that he was going to start. Yeah. But I'll give him a 9. I thought, his just effort he put in was brilliant. I thought when he was in the box as well, he was a bit of a threat in terms of the goal that we scored. He plays a nice ball into Bentancur on the lead up to it, which was good stuff. I thought he was when he got on the ball on the left hand side, given the opportunity, he was doing okay. Nothing too amazing, but he was kind of keeping the ball, linking up well with the Udogie, doing some good stuff. Nearly got on the end of a Porro cross right at the beginning of the game, which if it wasn't for a last ditch Mazraoui flick, he probably would have scored that. And I just thought, he was really helping out with Diallo on that side. And I think after a couple of early moments where Diallo was getting some joy, they just doubled up on him. I think Rishi was just there every time, making sure that Diallo wasn't getting to space. And really good.
Substitutes, Sonny, who did come on for Richarlison. I think Sonny I'm going to give a 7 to. I mean, we didn't see too much from him from an attacking perspective, but what we did see him do is come in, muck in for the team, good defensive display. And I think he floated in a couple of free kicks as well, where Danso could have gotten the end of. But look, he just came on and just helped the defensive structure, really.
Yeah, and I think as well, yeah, just made sure that Diallo again was doing similar to Rishi, just uh, fulfilled that role defensively, really, really good. Um, yeah, it's a shame we didn't get to see more of him going forward. Where if we could have got a second goal and killed it, and that would have been an amazing moment. Nearly got on the end of a chance for a pass from Solanke, but I didn't quite do it. But yeah, I thought just came on, got the job done, and made sure just kept everyone going. Obviously, got the captain's armband when he came on the pitch and did the job for the team. Yeah, I'll give him 7.
Look, to be fair, he should get 3 extra points just for lifting that
Come on,
trophy.
give him a 10. We'll give him a 10.
Kevin Danso comes on. I'll give him an 8 because I think when he came on, we changed tactically to go to 3 at the back, and I felt like he was just so important for us with his aerial ability. Being the big man at the back, he nearly got on the end of one on the other end of the pitch as well. But this is a couple of times now we've seen Danso come on late in games, in big games for us, and he's provided the difference.
Yeah, I'll give him an 8 as well. I thought it was a really good cameo. Just shored things up, made it into a back three, but kind of just fitted in seamlessly. It seems like it's something they've worked on a lot more. He won quite a few headers when he came on as well, and just made sure that like when they came on, Maguire wasn't getting any joy like he was threatening to do, and yeah, made sure we just saw out the game. So it was a good cameo.
Spence and Archie Gray came on. Not really much time in there for them, but I thought Spence did well to help Udogie out on that side. And Archie Gray, what a big moment for Archie Gray, man. 18 years of age, coming on in a Europa League final and lifting that trophy at the end of it. Unbelievable. Any comments on them too?
Not much. I think Spence obviously had to come on because Udogie was flagging and he was kind of getting cramped. But
yeah,
I thought, obviously probably a bit disappointed he allowed that Dallo cross to come in, which Shaw got the header from. But other than that, did pretty well. And yeah, just as you say, Archie Gray, imagine you told him this season he was going to be coming on in the Europa League final and winning and winning it. You know what I mean? He probably would have bitten your hand off. That it's probably why he's come to a club like Tottenham to be part of these kind of moments, and very, very special for him. So fair play to Archie. You saw they had a big embrace, him and Ange, after the game. So and you saw how much it meant to him. So look, for all the people complaining about how much we've used Archie and all this kind of stuff, look, Ange brought him on in a Europa League final. Doesn't get much bigger than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Spence with the celebrations at the end, he was enjoying every second of those celebrations, wasn't he, Jed Spence? You saw him with pictures with the cigar in his mouth after the game as well.
I'm surprised he didn't go like, "Hey, Conte," like one of those like Warnock.
And last but not least, Ange Postecoglou. And you know what? I'm going to give an unprecedented big fat 20 out of 10 for Ange Postecoglou. Look, the guy has won our first European trophy since 1984, our first trophy at all since 2008. And I can't thank him enough and the team for the moment and the day that they gave us yesterday. It's something that we've all been craving for so long. And we've all been asking him for so long, change it up in the magnitude of the game or opposition. And as soon as it's come to this Europa League run, that's exactly what he's done. And he's done it to such a high standard. It's unbelievable. Frankfurt, second leg, lock them down. No chance for them. Bodo, everyone says we're going to go there and have a torrid time and they'll really put it on us. We didn't feel that whatsoever out in Bodo. He just locked them down straight away. No goals conceded. And then yesterday, I think he's done exactly the same. I said to it coming into it, what I want to see, if we sit compact and deep, don't let Manchester United have any space in the attacking areas, we'll win the game. And I think that's exactly what we did. He changed the game as the game wore on as well, showed his tactical flexibility, putting Sarr at right wing, 3 at the back with Danso at the back. I mean, I think he managed that game absolutely perfectly, in my opinion. Yeah, we all could have seen us go forward a little bit more and maybe for this team to show a bit more composure in the second half and play our way a bit out of trouble instead of just booting it away. But he did what was necessary to get that job over the line. He did what was necessary to bring home that trophy. And you know what? I can't thank him enough. And I can't wait to see him in the parade tomorrow. And he deserves everything that he's going to get in terms of the Europa League run.
Absolutely. I can't have you giving Ange more than me. Ange is my guy. Ange is my guy. So if you're giving him 20, I've got to give him 30. You know what? I'll give him 40 for 4 years without a European trophy. That's what I'm going to give him. I
41.
thought it was 41. Absolute. I thought it was a bit of a tactical masterclass from Manchester. I thought he got the lineup spot on, which a lot of fans were not happy with the lineup when they saw it. Oh, where was Odegaard? Where was Son?
Me too.
Yeah, you too. I mean, I wasn't particularly happy with it, but I thought it was spot on. But the Rishi on the left and Son into Johnson, literally, that's how we scored. I thought that's how the goal happened, and that's all down to that selection. I thought we made it into a physical battle. I think we killed them physically, which is exactly maybe the right approach, considering how Man United do struggle physically, and that's been one of their kind of downfalls this season. So I think he had identified that and kind of made it into a physical battle. And I think he made some really clever tactical switches in the second half, defensive switches, which just made sure that where United were getting joy, where they're looking threatening, he just plugged those gaps, plugged that leak, and made sure we got over the line and got that trophy. Put Sarr at the right wing, put Danso centre back, doing all these different little tactical tweaks, and made sure we would not lose that game. And obviously, the most important thing is how he motivated these players, how he got these players up for this game, and what he was doing surrounding it. Obviously, the tactical tweaks are all great, but the motivation, doing that stuff with the family video before the game, keep making sure that despite all these defeats, despite how the season has gone, he made sure the players still kept believing that we were going to win a trophy this season and we could get over the line, and not to listen to the outside noise, not to let that affect them, and to always be as bold and as brash and as cold to say, I don't usually win a trophy in my second season. I always win a trophy in my second season. And he says what he does and he does what he says. And that's Ange Postecoglou. And he's brought that trophy home.
Coldest line in football, isn't it?
Absolutely. And to say that a club that hasn't won a trophy in 17 years, and he said that, he literally said, well, I'm going to win a trophy for this club this season. You said it. He was cold about it. He was even asked in that same interview, so you're confident you're going to win a trophy? Yeah? He was like, I think I just said that, didn't I? That's what he said. And he brought it home. And he brought a major European trophy home. In I think the second time he's been in the competition, he's won it. I mean, this guy,
the first time he's been in the Europa League, isn't it?
Or maybe because he lost in the qualifier, didn't he, for Celtic? Maybe.
Right.
Or something like that. But unbelievable from Ange Postecoglou. Unbelievable achievement. Unbelievable what he's done for this football club. Fair play to him. I think he's gonna brought us a day which will last for many, many, many years.
Never forget.
Never forgotten. We still remember. We weren't even born, but we all know the European trophies won in the past. That's how special it is here. He's going to have his picture up on the wall at the Tottenham Stadium, lifting that trophy, along with all the other players. And that is what he's achieved here. And whatever happens to go in the future, that can never be taken away.
100%. And you look at the managers that we've had, since, let's say, from the Pochettino era, Conte, Mourinho, Nuno, all these managers, all been in Europa League, Conference League, Champions League, Carabao League, or FA Cup, whatever. None of these managers, and you're talking about serial winners here, are able to get over the line. And look, we've all had, a lot of people have had their problems with Ange. Even you've had your problems with Ange at certain stages of the season. Hasn't been a perfect year, or by any stretch of the imagination. It's been a shambolic year. But the way it's ended with a trophy to our name, he's given us a day that we're literally never, ever going to forget as Tottenham fans. And many of us, it's going to be our best day as to date, our best day ever being a Spurs fan.
And he did something everyone thought was impossible. We were known as the club it was impossible to win trophies at. And he's come here and he's won it. And he's won a trophy and he's won a major big one as well.
I think for him to keep his job now, I mean, he keeps his job till the start of the season, I think, for sure. But I think moving on from that, he just needs to show what he's shown in this Europa League run over the course of a season, in my opinion.
And needs good backing.
Yeah, 100%. And he needs
He
to cut out these injuries, mate. That's what he needs to do as well.
Exactly, he needs to cut out the injuries. And look, if you have more days than that, you can do a million ear cups. Give me more ear cups if you're going to give us days like that. I wouldn't care, because I think he's a really good man. I think some of the stuff he's done and how he connects with people, like how he connects with the players, how he speaks to them. The speech I saw at the end of the game, after the game, talking about the families. It's you've won it with your family, not just for them. It's with them. All this kind of stuff. Like, I think he's so good at that human connection. And if he can adapt as well in the games, like he has adapted in these Europa League games and got us through all the ties, and as well as he has done, and also can get us playing that football, that Ange ball that we know we've seen when it does work, it can work to really great effect, and he hybrids it. And I think there's been a lot of, obviously, things he's had to learn this season. You got to remember, in terms of him managing at this high level, as much as he's an experienced manager, obviously the level is still a different level to what he has. That's just barefaced reality. But I think he's learning. I do think he's learning. And I think he is starting to change a few things, and he's starting to adapt. And, I do think injuries in the second half of the season have been, in terms of muscle injuries and things that we were really suffering with earlier, they've seemed to have subsided a bit. We're not getting as many of those. In terms of his style of play, he seemed to adapt in that a bit. And I think the belief and the togetherness this trophy is going to bring this group of players with this manager hopefully can be special. It can be, but it's up to the hierarchy.
I think if he carries on this level of adaptability and this level of tactical nous that he's showed in the last 3 Europa League games, then I think he's going to win a lot of the fans back over, if he hasn't already, by winning this trophy, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, well, that is our player ratings. Got a couple more super chats to get into.